So let's get started. Welcome, good afternoon. My name is Rappit de Vries, and today I'll be your host together with my colleague Jan Holthuizen.
Good afternoon.
And I'm heading product marketing, Jan is heading pre-sales solution architecture, and the focus of today's session is AI-led legacy modernization. And to basically share a bit more, we would first like to start with an opening. I will share more about why now is the time to modernize your legacy systems. Then I will transfer to Jan, who will deep dive into how Rappit helps with both our platform, but also our Agentic modernization blueprint capability, something that we launched, a breakthrough that we launched early this year in January. So Jan will also do a demo on that. And I will share a bit more about why our offering is really unique to what is there in the market, how Rappit can help you, showing a couple of customer examples where we have delivered real impact on their business. And we'll close with a Q&A. So in total, we do expect around 40 minutes. And then we basically, of course, can also follow up with you later if you have more questions. So that's the agenda for today. I think what you will learn from this webinar, if you're in the business, is basically how you can move faster and outperform your competitors, which is also a brand promise, deliver outperformance with our AI-led platform, but also this specific capability, possibly in combination with our services. So we reduce risk for you, we increase the time to value with our AI-led platform as well as solution development approach. If you're in IT, you will learn that there's a smarter way, basically reverse engineering what is there, your existing application, or taking screenshots of functional documents as a base to generate an application with AI, so that you can basically start with a very solid foundation to reimagine your future application processes. So we'll show you why we do it, how we do it, and how we are different. But first, I think a brief introduction. If you don't know us, who's Rappit? I think Rappit is a company building on a very proud heritage. We were founded in 2009 by IT veteran Jan Baan, who is also the founder of Baan Company, a leading ERP vendor, as well as the Cordis platform, which was a leading high-ranked platform, and also the Forrester and analyst waves. Basically, we're building on 45 years of experience, combining that with innovative technology. And what we do is we have an AI-led platform to basically develop and modernize core enterprise systems, which can be, for example, a TMS system or a enterprise application. And we combine it also, if needed, with our solution development services approach, which includes solution development, but also we do have a data and artificial intelligence practice. So we can also make the applications that we build together with you intelligent and AI-powered and data-powered. And as well, we have a cloud operations practice. So we also have a lot of experience running and managing your application on enterprise scale for you. We are serving global industry leaders in a couple of industries, like in manufacturing and chemicals. We proudly serve Solvay. In transportation logistics, we proudly serve Hoyer. And in retail also, we proudly serve, for example, Hunkemuller, but also companies like Omoda. We're privately held, and I already mentioned that we deliver enterprise-grade software. So we deliver really great software, also exemplified by certified by our SOC 2, for example, and the ISO certifications. But I think we also have a very great team, which is also recognized by us as colleagues in a very good ranking, a great place to work, because I think there's a lot of passion in this company, and we feel very passionate about building future-ready software. We do that with a team of 320 people, partly in the Netherlands. So we have our headquarters here in the Netherlands, but also a large, a very capable and expert development center in India, as well as offices in France and Germany. So, legacy enterprise systems. I think there are two realities that we're seeing, at least from our perspective today. There still is a lot of old, outdated systems. It is still there. I think McKinsey has done research, and what they found is that for the top 500 companies in the world, almost 70% of that software is over 20 years old. That's just a staggering number. I think if we talk with prospects or with customers, they also share that they still have a lot of outdated systems that are sometimes still running very nicely, but sometimes are giving them a lot of headaches and problems. And I think Accenture has also looked into that and the general feedback is that legacy is really holding the business back. It's slowing us down. It's giving all kind of security issues. We cannot move fast enough by adding new features. So particularly, I think in the age of AI, we'll share more about it. It slows down AI efforts because of data accessibility. So that's becoming really a burning problem, but also a driver for companies to look at their legacy systems and rebuild them or get rid of them completely. At the same time, AI is not just a driver for companies to say, hey, we need to do something about our legacy. Of course, we need to innovate based on the reimagined old systems, but also McKinsey has already showed, and that's also what we at Rappit are addressing, that AI can be a big driver in faster legacy modernization. So not just a driver for, hey, we need something with data, we need something with old systems. No, AI is also part of the solution and basically adding capabilities to platforms like ours that make it easier and faster to rebuild and reimagine those systems that currently are there. And I'll share more about it today. So again, AI, as you all know, it's transforming companies and industries around the world. So it's really the innovation engine that will drive new business growth, productivity, and efficiency. But at the same time, for those AI, you need to have access to data. And that's where I think legacy starts to really make our life more difficult, because if that data is locked into systems, it's not accessible. Basically, it's not usable for the AI models that only can perform when they have access to this data. So for really intelligent core systems, which is something that is Rappit delivering, but also with a lot of customers are looking to outperform in the market with systems that already incorporate AI, that are data driven, that give predictions on what to do next, that give intelligent insights. You basically need to have access to the data, and AI needs to also have access to basically train its models and train its performance for a better business outcome. So again, AI, what we get back from our customer conversation, is really driving the change for Rappit legacy modernization these days. At the same time, we also hear that there are still some obstacles in achieving an AI-driven transformation. I think there are typically three aspects to that. So legacy and data constraints. I already talked about it, that the siloed and aging systems and data that make it very difficult to tap into the data and basically have real-time sync and real-time access to let's say your intelligence system, because it's very fragmented. It's locked into your existing systems and databases. At the same time, I think rebuilding a system costs money, of course, so there needs to be money allocated to that. And sometimes there's also hesitation to make that investment because there's existing budget. And I think nothing is for free, but I think we do see that there are smarter ways to rebuild and transform existing legacy systems compared to what was there on the market, let's say, a year ago. Also, there's risk involved because legacy takes time. I think at Rappit, I'm proud to say that we do have a lot of experience in rebuilding systems in such a way that we really reduce the risks for our customers. We do that for very big core systems, but also for much smaller systems, both in the way we build that software to live with the customer, but also using our AI-led reverse engineering capability that Jan will show a bit later. Is basically reduce the risks that you might think there are there. And there are now smart ways on the market with our platform, with our capabilities to mitigate those risks. And also to make sure that you can really start innovating with a new system that is AI powered, that makes use of the latest and greatest technology, delivering really great outcomes in the end of the day. Because avoiding it blocks growth. It blocks growth in your revenue, in your profitability, but also in things like employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. So you basically have challenges with business agility because it takes typically a long time to add new features. Also due to technical constraints like monolithic services, where if you add something, the scalability might not be there. I think we have also examples of, for example, Moda, who modernized or rebuilt their warehouse management system because they want to respond fast to the market to make sure it was also scalable for the Black Fridays. When there's a peak load of transactions on the platform because a lot of people are going to make orders. So that agility to respond fast to new innovations, add new workflows, that is really, really something that you can only do with a modern system. And I think next to that, of course, there are operational costs. We get a lot of feedback from customers. Hey, it's very hard to find developers for COBOL, for example, or legacy technology on which our current system is built. It's very costly. We pay a lot of license fees, even sometimes for on-premise systems. So by moving to, for example, cloud-based platforms, cloud-based systems, you get benefits also on the cost side. Technical debt, I think an obvious one. I think a lot of legacy is based on outdated underlying technology, which induce a lot of risks, both in the security, but also in the maintenance. And yeah, I think you need to make sure that you really spend a lot of time, money on that to make it perform for what your business requires. Productivity, typically a lot of development time is spent on maintaining those systems, so it's basically impacting your developer productivity, but also, maybe even more important, it's impacting the productivity and user experience of your employees, because they're dealing with outdated systems which have an old UI. It's very difficult to add new workflows. So what they start doing is maybe start using manual spreadsheets. There are all kind of manual workarounds that makes their life much more difficult. So, and also the business much less productive. So those are the things that by rebuilding a legacy system and doing it the Rappit way, we feel you can unlock massive growth and innovation. And we'll share more about it later in this webinar. That said, we do recognize that rebuilding today, particularly differentiating custom enterprise application, takes time. I mentioned differentiating custom here because we feel what we see, if you want to be an industry leader, or if you have a unique business, and I think every business has unique elements, you basically need software that fully fits those processes, that differentiates you compared to what your competitors are doing, but also gives your employees and your customers a different experience. And yes, custom software development, it might take time, but the perception is that rebuilding legacy might take a lot of time, because I think there's the understanding intent. For some legacy systems, they're like 20 years old, so there's no documentation. It's a bit of black box. Nobody might really know what is happening or how the system was built, what is really doing. No technical documentation. The black box is there. At the same time, if you want to rebuild it, defining those requirements, what we call the delivery process, might take a lot of time. And next to that, typically, what you also want to do is to modernize what matters. So some existing process you want to transfer, but for sure you also want to add innovation and process optimization, making the business more future ready. So with innovative new ways. So it's not just transforming what is there, but also making a deliberate decision. Okay, this I will keep this, but this is something that I want to completely reimagine and make us even more special, make us even more different. So what customers tell us, they say, hey, we want to move really faster, but my current system is slowing us down, and my competitors are getting ahead with AI and innovative stuff. They have much more possibilities to add new revenue streams and add new business models. At the same time, we talk to IT leaders to say, hey, we don't want to rebuild the old, but also why should we start from scratch? Because we have built a system that really is fitting our unique processes. So that is something our business is running on it. So how do we deal with that? And that leads us to the next chapter of this webinar, where we show what if there's a smarter way to rebuild, but also to reimagine, to really think differently about your outdated enterprise application with the support of AI. And I'll transfer to my colleague Jan to share more about it. Jan?
Thank you, Hybert. So basically, Hybert already mentioned that we're offering a range of services and products, and the core bit of what we're offering is the Rappit platform, which is an integrated platform to develop enterprise applications faster. And this can be augmented and enhanced by adaptable AI solutions that we're offering, Undock for intelligent document processing, a knowledge agent to uncover knowledge from large sources of data with AI, a recommender agent to understand the intent, for example, for customers, like we did for Amoda, and to recommend solutions for them in a complex scenario. And then we've got an extension with Rappit Composer to build workflows on top of applications, so which is its own kind of core capability. We're going to be covering Rappit Developer as the core, at the basis platform that we're offering. In a second, we're going to look at that. But in order for those services to work, there is always work and projects involved. And so next to these products, we also have services like application development, data and AI, and cloud operations to help wherever it's necessary within the project to make a customer project a success. Now, that Rappit Developer Platform, so what does it do? How does it make things? It actually, if you put it to two or three bullets, it's better, faster, and still affordable. So the core item for us is that on making application development better means that we're using the modernization blueprint to develop the right solution, using the documents to gather the right requirements and structure them in the right way. We're leveraging best practices. So the application that's actually built is industry best practice. It's not a proprietary stack of technology. And it's allowing the developers to focus on differentiating activities. So basically, it's taking away the things that are always the same on all of the applications. Faster, well, with a platform like this, there is collaboration that's possible. There is actually a common view on what the application does, and it's making the system more transparent. We're actually generating up to 80% of the code for the resulting application from within the platform. The rest of the application is built with standard tools. So actually, we've got a seamless integration from what we're building into a standard developer workflow, and we're going to have a look at that a little bit later. And that means that we're also enabling swift deployment into a landing zone, into your cloud environment from within a normal Git or a normal kind of CI/CD pipeline workflow. And more affordable, in our case, we decided to take a commercial model that is worked around the developers. So when you have a lot of people adding value via the platform, there are costs attached to that, but there is no end user license. And this is where a lot of platform services actually they are killed by their own success, right? If 10,000 people actually like the application that's built, as a provider, you actually have to pay so much that the end value isn't really there. The return on investment isn't there. With the way that we're scaling up and down, we're reducing the hosting charges. And then this is one of the big things. One of the scarcest resources nowadays are skilled developers. So what we're doing is by focusing developers' time on differentiating activities, this actually means that you can do more with the same people that you already have. That allows you to not upgrade your team, but actually upgrade your projects. We'll look to the next one. This is how we're approaching it. Our approach of generating the application starts with a document or other artifacts from your existing application or the application you would like to build. So this is what we'll be seeing is a business requirements document. It might be a set of user stories. It might be screenshots. It might be SQL schemas that you have available from your existing environment. Now, we feed this to a system, to our platform, and it builds a model of the application. So it's a conceptual model of the application, which can be reviewed by the human. So it gives you an idea of the structure that the application will have in the end. And you can adjust that. So you can kind of give your own additions and add things, remove things, alter things. And this is, in our opinion, the best way to do it. So you actually look at the concept and the structural idea that an AI has about what it needs to build, and then you're actually changing it at the point where you can have actually map out the conceptual level the model. And this is actually, a lot of this is done in visual and standard ways. Once we have this, we're using that model to utilize and configure code blocks. So this is deterministic code that's quality assured, that's actually secure, scalable, and industry best practice. And that's actually compiled to the application that comes out of the platform itself. Once that's deployed, it already is an existing or a working application that can be used where people can gather information and give feedback. But more so, this is actually a code base that can be extended by standard tools and by developers to actually do the custom bits and pieces that you need in your project. So changing the UI, changing data structures, and actually enhancing the bits and pieces that makes this differentiating. So it's no black box code. It's actually directly in a GitLab. So if we look at what the the architecture of a resulting application looks like, we'll share these slides so you don't have to remember this in every detail. But if we look at the bottom bit of this, this is actually our studio, our development application, which is pushing those code blocks to get to the repository. And then once the repository is triggered to say, please release this into a proper environment, it's actually building container images that are stored in an artifact registry. And these are deployed in Cloud Run, which is a managed container environment within Google for the application part, deploying an Angular and a Spring Boot environment with all of the standard parts like single sign-on and things like that inside that application. The data storage for this is actually done in a standard Cloud SQL environment, usually Postgres. We can also use LOIDB for very specific use cases that need more scalability on reading. And we can extend it to BigQuery, which is an analytic database on Google, to actually show analytics use cases or support machine learning. And all of this actually gives you a cloud native scalable environment for your applications, all set up with cloud with load balancing to actually allow users from across the world to access it. So let's focus on the part that's around the modernization and the blueprint that we would like to talk about. So let me talk you through the general process, and then we're going to look at the platform itself. So first of all, we uploaded the assets. In our case, in this demo case, we're going to use a requirements document, but this could also be screenshots, SQLs, or other assets that you have available. Then the AI extracts the intent. So it actually uses all those items plus the knowledge that we give as a context around an enterprise application to build the model that we require, or that it actually comes up with. As a user, you validate the result, this model, and look at the individual structures that that the AI came up with, adjust it, and then you generate the app. So without further ado, let's look at the document that we use. This is actually something that came up with an RFI, and we took the liberty to take a lot of some of the content of it in an example document. It's a field service management system that's described, and what you can see here is actually really, really detailed, right? So we've got a product perspective. We have descriptions about user interfaces, assumptions and dependencies, a lot of functional requirements, and actually in total 104 pages of documentation of what the requirements for this bit are. So for an architect like myself or other people, this is wonderful because it's got so much information, but it's a real issue to actually get through it and get your head around it and say, so this is how it's structured and this is what the solution should look like. So what we're going to do and what we can do is actually we uploaded this to our platform, and just let me. And we already ran through the modernization blueprint. What you can see here is what we have. We call this generations, which is the individual runs of the modernization blueprint. And what I wanted to show is you can actually do more than one. So this initial one that's actually completed as a greenfield first run on on this document, and then you could have, or you will have, a second and a third where you can add additional documents or you can change things, focusing on other assets. Now, first of all, with the modernization blueprint, you're selecting which components you would like to generate. So we'll go through all of these in detail anyway. So this is just for people who are already in the working. Second part is selecting and uploading the assets that you would like to use. The system actually persists and stores all of the documents that have been used within the application, so there is no need to recover or remember the version that you used for version 1. It's already available here, and then you're just selecting the ones that are valid for the run that you want to do. The next one is actually a more technical screen, which gives you an idea of what the processing of those individual documents is doing. So if they work through, if they have been processed, or in this case, they have been completed. And then the magic happens. So the first structure that the AI extracts is the modules. So we're building a modular application. In this case, we're working on also extending this to a microservices environment. At the moment, we're extracting modules, and these modules are actually the highest level, right? And for a field services management environment, the client management is a good one. What you can see here is the AI doesn't only give you a name and a single module, but there is also a description. And what's more important, there is a source down here where exactly or one of the points where it identified where this module is actually mentioned. So you can refer back to the documentation saying, okay, this is where it stands. And there is what we call an AI score, which is about the probability or how sure the model is that this is actually a module that's described. And this is going to come in handy a little bit later. On the modules, this is usually comparably high. The next level, once we've got the modules as the highest bit, we're looking at the processes. And what you can see here is that this tree that we have on the left-hand side actually is extended. So for each of the modules, we've got 1, 2, 3 or 4 different processes. And these are in our nomenclature, in our structure, we're setting a parallel with epics, which you might be aware of from an agile context. So they are a structural way not only to define what's happening in the business land, but also so the process that's actually happening and that things are going through and their description, but also as a structural element in an agile way of working and to structure your backlog. Right, so they are a grouping element for user stories. Again, we've got the same the same settings here, and what you can see here is on this process side, you can also if you run this through, this is already completed, so this is read-only, but you could actually add additional processes or epics and set them on top of what you already have. So if you have additional information, you can run through this. So once you've got the process, what belongs to a process are actors, right? So in IT systems, they're usually represented as roles. So we're taking a little bit of sideways step, looking at the individual roles. And with roles, the interesting bit is that they're in quite a few documents. They're described in one individual place. So what you can see here, if we switch the view into grid or into a tabular view, you can actually see that if you look at the page numbers, there is a page number 12 where there is a lot of roles described. And then there is one of those guys, which is a user, the user, which is described in page number 23. And actually, it's got a lower score than the others. So this would be, as an architect, would be one of the things that I would look at and say, so maybe this isn't a distinct role. Maybe this describes one of the other roles, but somebody just wrote it in that way, and it's not entirely clear that it's, so it's not very distinct. So this is a way to identify these items, and especially with roles, it's very typical. Or you've got clusters, so you've got one item where the roles are defined, and there is another item for each of the modules or something. So you've got the process and the roles. Now we actually would like to do things and look at the specific functionality of what the application is going to do. And as you can see here, that tree already struggles. We've got almost 300 user stories that have been discovered and that were defined. If we compare this with the functional requirements, this is quite a bit more than the functional requirements that were within the document itself. So one of the big challenges for a software team within this environment is to to structure that backlog, right? So you've got a huge amount of user stories, and if we select any of these, we can actually see that we have added additional information for the user story. So you still have the name and the description as you have on the other tabs. You've got your AI score and the identifier. But then we have a referred role. So what's the actor that we have that is working with it? We have a priority and an estimated complexity. We've got a workflow stage, which is referred back to the process. So where exactly in the process does that actually happen? Then we've got things like the usage frequency, which is a good way to prioritize your backlog to say, so there are things that people are doing daily, and maybe there are roles within your application that are more critical. So what you would do is you would focus on those roles and the usage frequency, which is daily or hourly or something like that. And then we've got a basic flow description. We've got an alternate flow description, success criteria, data impact, which is always an important one. So does it actually write critical master data, or is it read only? And then we've got a few additional bits. When it comes down to estimation, I would usually have a development team have another look at that, but this is certainly a point to start from, and especially when you come to overview working. And then you've got the preconditions, which I find very useful because it gives you an idea that, for example, you already need to have all of the login logic in place to have this work. From the beginning, from all the modules up to the user stories, we talked about the overall content structure of the application. And with the next step, with the data models, we're actually looking at something that's a real structural element of the application that is generated. So if we look at the visualizer, that gives us a nice little spider diagram, ERM, for our applications. So we've got all of the different entities within the application. Let's focus on something that's in the middle of it all. For example, a profile person in this case. And then it's got all of the relationships here to actually be implemented. So this is, with all of the fields that are in there, this is already a deployable entity relationship model. So this relates directly to a database structure that the platform will deploy. And then if we look at the summary, we can have a look at the numbers again. One of the items that we didn't touch yet is the pages. And these pages are actually always 2 pages per data model entity, because for each data model, as an initial start, we're building one overview and one detail page. So a list page and a detail page to do standard CRUD and list functionality. Right. So now you are faced with almost 300 user stories and a large data model that we can deploy directly. So there is a lot of work in front of you once you ran this through the platform. And the question is, how are you actually work through that huge amount of work? So one option that you can take, if we look at the next slide, is to work together with Rappit in a collaborative way to work through this project. So we've, as Hubert mentioned, we've been working with companies of all sizes to build everything from small AI agents to complex core systems. And we already have experience with any combination of customers using our platform, our own experts using our platform, or any combination. And we're working through a very standard process. The discover phase here is actually something that we would use to validate what's in your requirements document. If we have a requirements document that works with the modernization blueprint, and then we would work with you to go into the design environment or into the design phase to actually clearly map out how the project is going to work, who's doing what, how we're distributing the work. Typically, the product ownership lies with the customer. We're going to take on a certain amount or all of the development. We're going to develop and deliver, help you to do all of the testing. Again, typically, the user acceptance testing, so the point where you need to determine if this is fit for purpose, this is typically something that stays with the customer to give last say. And then once we've got a version in production, things are in active use with your users, with your employees, we can switch to maintain and adapt, and with an application support team or our CloudOps team to actually work with you to run the application, but also make adjustment if that's necessary during the life cycle. Right, back to Hubert to summarize.
Thank you, Jon. Yeah, exciting to see this. And I think that also ties back to the value that Rappit delivers with the platform, but also in combination, if needed, with our solution development approach. Typically, we deliver much faster time to value. For core systems, can be 4x, can be 10x, depends on the situation. But our promise is we'll be faster compared to high coding plus AI coding, because we do that with predictable code that you can maintain, that is scalable, particularly for bigger systems, but also for smaller systems that are unique to your business. So faster time to value because of our platform, because of the Agentic blueprint specifically, but also because of our capable team. And we basically reimagine and modernize legacy. Yeah? We de-risk it, so there's a way to get a jump start and to keep things, but also reimagine things, and also facilitating, very importantly, the collaboration between the business and IT. So we feel that and strongly believe is to build differentiating solutions. There needs to be a smart way to facilitate the people that are close to the business, which are the people from the business, of course, but also between IT. And we facilitate that, and will much more facilitate that on our platform. Next to the future-ready promise of our company, we don't deliver any vendor lock-in in the sense that the code that we generate for the full application is yours. It's based on open technology. You own the code. If needed, you can also deploy it on your own environment. So that is, I think, a strong differentiator compared to what a lot of other platforms promise or don't deliver. If the generate code is not usable or not based on any best practices. So this is code that you own, but that if needed, you can also further extend. It's also code that we call forever young. So you can regenerate based on, let's say, more recent libraries, technologies. So that means that you prevent technical debt or legacy from happening again, and that you also stay agile and up to date. Agile, I think one of the other ways we do that we have adaptable workflows that allows, again, people in the business to quickly make changes to specific rules, and they don't need to bother the IT team for that. So that's also a future-ready way, because software is also evolving, because the business and the market is also evolving. Opportunities are emerging with our platform. If needed, in a combination with our services, we deliver you the value to keep charging ahead and keep being ahead of your peers and competitors. We have a couple of examples for that. I think Jan already mentioned a couple of them. So from very advanced core systems that are ERP-like, transportation management system, warehouse management system, CRM. On the left side, like we do for Plugon, Hoyer and Newport, for just to name some examples, but also building and extending those core systems, but it can even be legacy on-premise systems that still need to have innovation. We add innovation later by building those cloud-native microservice-based applications that scale to the needs of the business, that connect with those core systems. So, for example, it can be a project management applications like we did for Valeo. They have about 30,000 users, talking about scalability, that every week use this to manage all of their R&D projects across 15 R&D sites and 50 businesses globally. But also pricing configurator, work order management, B2B portals, for example, for e-parts, an American-based suppliers. So there's a lot of variety what you can build with the platform. And also the last box is AI agent solutions to automate process and improve both the employee and the customer experience. And what our strength is that we are able to integrate those agents in the systems, but also we have the building blocks and the adaptable solutions to also here deliver fast time to value. So we've seen a lot of examples that within 6 weeks, based on the right input, you have a first version in production. For example, a AI stylist, like we built for Moda, or a knowledge agent, like we built for a smaller company, a ProTech in the Netherlands, or intelligent document processing, integrated again in those core systems if needed. We call it Undoc, or intelligent document processing to basically convert pricing and product documents into lines into the core system. And previously people were typing all of those lines into a spreadsheet, and then it was fed in some database in some other system. So you talk about improving the experience for those employees, because nobody likes to do that. It's better productivity, but also faster time to value, and no mistakes, because you don't have any mistakes. Typically, if you do that with AI, you validate the exceptions, the last 1%. So it gives you also better business value by reducing manual errors for that perspective. So building core systems, making them intelligent with AI agent solutions, that's what our strength is. We use our platform, if needed, in collaboration with our solution AI development services. I think one very nice example of is this Hunkemuller. And they had a legacy application. If you know their brand promise is be your most beautiful self. Now that legacy system, if you looked at it, it was terrible. I think I'm free to quote it, but the UI was not very user-friendly. They also felt that way. And it was built on outdated Drupal technology, which was going end of life. So they had an urgent need to rebuild that application on modern technology. They had a limited budget, and also they had an urgency because, at some point in time, which was approaching rather soon, it would be end of life. And if something happened, this application was used across 85 stores to manage all of the store operations, particularly relating to the merchandise, what kind of campaign material to put, let's say, in front of the store, all kind of desks to put inside the store. So it basically was coordinating the commercial deployment of campaigns as one of the examples. So this was for them a really crucial application. It was also a custom application because they built it to really fit their unique needs. And when they needed to another modern application, they also started looking at standard systems, but because it was so much tailored to their specific needs, they could not find anything. And then they started evaluating low-code platforms. In the end, they did not choose for that. They chose for Rappit. Why did they not choose for a low-code platform? Because they felt it would require a lot of customization, would, after the initial perceived speed, would introduce a lot of slowness in the process to get to the last 20%. They also want to have a differentiating UI, and to Jan's point earlier, they were not so much fond of the end-user-based licenses that those low-code platforms introduce. So they went with Rappit. We basically rebuilt that application very rapidly. We used also the existing legacy screens because I think 60% of the current functionality was to be rebuilt. So I think AI is a great to basically get a jump start for that. And then we also added different new features. For example, during Corona, they found out that because this system is also feeding the Google Maps with the opening stores per store, 150 stores. And with the Corona lockdown, they needed to hire an additional employee because the system could not facilitate this in one go. So every line had to be manually typed. And it was very unproductive and not very easy. So this was one of the features that we built in the new system, that you have a drag and drop. You just can do a mass upload, and in one click, you basically have adapted if needed, all the opening store times. So this is just one example that is, hey, this is not working, our existing application, we cannot change it. With Rappit, they were able to deliver that. So that was some of the business value that we delivered for them. I think on top of that, Jan already mentioned BigQuery, Google's leading data technology. So Rappit applications by default come with basically integrated pipelines. So a model can very quickly use that input to get data out of the system and do all kind of analytics also in other systems. So what did it deliver? 3 times more economical development, both in cost of time, compared to what they were previously looking at. I think they were able to deliver a return on investment, so get back their investments rather soon, within 1 year. And also we were able to deliver a first prototype in a week, and then in a couple of months, the complete application rebuilt. If you want to know more about it, we've done a webinar with Jan van Zetten, the enterprise architect of Hunkemöller, also showing a bit about the smart legacy modernization capabilities and what the impact is for them. So I think if you want to check out the video, you can follow this link, and there's also a case study on that with more information, how we basically reimagined and rebuilt that custom application. And for them, the value was in being on time and also securing the business continuity over 85 stores. I think it's time for Q&A, Jan. We're running a bit out of time, but I think for sure we have time for a couple of questions. I'm not sure if you already spotted a couple of on the Q&A. I did have a quick look. I can take the first one, and maybe Jan, you can.
Yep, sure.
You can also, let's say, contribute from your side. But I think I'll start from the bottom. There's a question by Don. Can you create microservices on-premise ERPs, such as Banon, Infor, and pour them easily when the ERP is moved to the cloud, say AWS? I think there are a couple of elements here, and I'll kick it off, and then Jan, feel free to join. I think where we have a lot of added value already is that we have, for example, core systems which are still on-premise. We've done that for example, Vallejo, a big customer of ours who had a lot of SAP, in this case SAP systems, which were running fine, keeping the core clean was their philosophy, but they needed different line of business application on top of those systems. And given the skill they had, a company of 100,000 people, for them the business case was very easily made to custom build those applications. So what we did with Rappit, we basically built them cloud natively, and we integrated them with this on-premise, let's say, ERP system. So that possibility is definitely there. We are Google Cloud Native. I think that's part of the strength that we offer. So we don't host it as such as on-premise, but definitely there are a lot of possibilities for existing other ERP vendors that want to add innovation or extend their, let's say, SAP, Infor, Baan, that want to extend their systems with cloud native modules or specific workflows, definitely we can add a lot of value. But Jan, I think you're also coming from that background. Maybe you want to add a bit more about that.
Yeah. So if that ERP is moving just kind of lift and shift, then yes, we can move that quite easily. It's just changing the endpoints. In my opinion, or in my experience, a lot of times that move from an ERP, so let's say from an on-prem version to a cloudified S4HANA or something like that, usually means the structure of the ERP changes, and that in its nature usually means there is quite a bit of change, and then it depends on how much change there is, right? So in short, yes, if things don't change, it's very, very easy, and it's something that we can do in a matter of minutes. So a very short maintenance window to get it from one place to the other. But experience shows that these changes are typically go hand in hand with a larger program, and then our changes would be synchronized in that program. Let's look at another item. So Thomas writes, if I have a legacy application that needs to be rebuilt, how would I start to work with Rappit, or how would the collaboration with Rappit look like? So basically, first of all, we would like to talk to you directly, understand where you stand, what the requirements information you have on your application, and what your vision is about modernizing it. Is this an issue of missing support, end of life for the platform, something like this? Are the developers still on board? And then we would actually custom develop a project with you, right? Either enabling your own team to run that modernization and support more in a mentoring or training situation, or actually taking some of the heavy lifting of that project for you and then do a phase out and let you maintain it. Or in the strongest case, do managed services and build, if you will, a custom software as a service for you, which would actually be a cloud service just for your purposes, purpose built, managed by us, and you would just kind of reap the benefits of using it. The hybrid, maybe we can take one other.
Yeah, so I think what makes the blueprint agentic, I think that's also interesting one. I think it's basically agentic under the hood. So we use Google's leading AI technology. And I think if you stay tuned, you'll see that also so it's agentic under the hood. That's my first answer. If you stay tuned, you'll see that we are making a lot of excitement progress. I cannot disclose too much to make also the user experience really agentic. So I think the engine is there. It's already, I think, delivering a lot of value. But of course, we have a roadmap to further extend and build on that. And I think, again, cannot disclose much, but very excited, I think, for what is years to bring in terms of agentic. Maybe one last question, Jan, if you want to pick one. And then I think the other questions, what we will do, we've listed them. I think we have the people that raised them, the contact details, so we reach out or capture in all the way on our landing page and share the answer where appropriate. So we will not forget, we'll follow up on those questions. Maybe Jan, the last question that you want to...
maybe a last one. And I picked an unusual to answer because the answer is not kind of advertising. Does it still make sense to use Rappit if my needs are very standard and SaaS solutions are available? Well, I would say my first reaction would have been, if it's really standard, if you manage to have requirements like everybody else, there is a good chance there is something off the shelf that works. Now, two things to consider, especially when we're talking about a SaaS solution. Typically, the license environment is very important to consider. Coming from a background with companies like ServiceNow or Salesforce, the per seat licenses can become very, very heavy. And then a question is, what's your usage pattern? Do you have a lot of people who would like to access the data? And what I've seen in a lot of cases is that companies have dedicated users simply because the end user license for a certain platform is really, really expensive. So I would say it depends. And in this case, this is very much more about the commercial model. So the question, can you afford to pay per user, than it is about building the solution? Because I completely agree, if there is something off the shelf available, building it custom might not be the first choice. I would always say further down the line, you will find requirements that require something custom. And if you build something by yourself, you're already catered for that, rather than being stuck with something that's really hard to enhance.
Thanks, Jan. I think with 4 minutes left, I do see a lot of other interesting and good questions. We will follow up on them separately, so they're listed and noted. So thank you for raising them, and I think all good and valid questions to take up separately. I think for now, what I would like to do is move to the closing. We talked about legacy. We talked about legacy systems and infrastructure holding back businesses. At the same time, we have also shown there's a smart way forward with Rappit, with our AI-led application development platform in general, but specifically also our Agentic Modernization blueprint. So to build back better, we'd like to invite you to visit our page that we made also as a follow-up for this webinar. So there you will find next week the recording also of this webinar, some specific other relevant assets like the white paper that was shared in chat, also the Hunkemuller webinar. And also I think our invitation is that's also what you see on your screen. Of course, you also are very excited, like a lot of the customers we are currently working with on this specifically blueprint to see how it works. So you want to really see it in action. So we invite you to contact us, to book a call. And in that call, Jan and his colleagues, together with our commercial team and our delivery team, will basically discuss with you how we can also show you based on your functional documents. And if needed, we can also sign an NDA. If you're sharing, let's say, information that is confidential to you, functional requirement documents, to show you how we can bring that application to life in a first foundation using the blueprint. I think just to reiterate, we talked about legacy here, but this is a capability that is very powerful for existing application screenshots, but also can, of course, be used for completely new applications where you have UI screens or functional documents. So the power is also there for what we call greenfield application development, which is application generation, jumpstarting capability that we have in the platform. So I think for that's my ask and my close for this webinar. To thank you all for your participation, to check out the webpage, and to also check out the email that will be sent either next week or this week as a follow-up with the recording, as also the link again to the blueprint. So we hope to meet you in a discovery call or in let's say getting acquainted call, and show how we can make the blueprint powerful for your specific situation. So with this, I would like to thank you all for participating. I would like to thank you for asking your questions and the engagement that we felt, and the energy that we felt, and excitement that we felt also about this capability. And I think the opportunity to really build back better business, because I think that's in the end what we all want to deliver, business software that delivers outperformance for you in your specific situation. And yeah, we feel excited and humbled to, where possible, help you with that. Thanks again. I would like to close this call and wish you a good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.